Gotcha. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you, Morgan. Welcome, everyone. We really appreciate you being here for our Porch Story Day. We're very excited about this one. We want to give a shout out to our sponsor, EVs and the Friends of EVs, for helping us to put on this Porch Stories series this summer. And just to let you all know, if you wanted to see one and you didn't get to see one, check out our YouTube channel. We put up all our Porch Stories on our YouTube channel, so you can always watch those later on if you missed one. But today we are so honored to have with us Tony Cladusbid, and he is going to talk to us about canoe culture and, very excitingly, about the canoe journey this past year, or this year I should say, as well. So welcome, Tony.
Thank you. What a beautiful sight. This is, I think my third one that I've done.
Second year.
Second? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've grown about twice the size. It's nice. Anyway, thank you for showing up. Today is something dear to my heart. And it's the culture. It's life. It's breath. Education, generational wealth. It restores balance. It gives you direction, gives you a peace of mind. There's so many different ways to describe what we do when we travel. I had a picture of my first year on Canoe Journey. In 1998 was my first canoe journey. And in 2009, we got the salmon dancer. This is our family canoe. This is the one that me and my family travel on. This is the one, these people are the ones I'm responsible for. My job is the skipper on the very back. I control where we go, when we go, and how we get there. It is one of the biggest responsibilities I've ever had to step into as part of leadership in my community. I was always comfortable all of my life being the one that made sure that everything was done so the project could go forward. So you never seen me. I was one of the guys that were behind the scenes, taking care of everything, and then when it was all done, you didn't see me at all. And that part of my life, that luxury of my life, was kind of like my bubble, where I'm a jack of all trades. So if anything needs to be done, anything goes wrong, they say, I got a guy. Well, I'm that guy. And which brings me to another subject, the meeting of my life. She needed a guy.
She got a good one.
And here I am. But she had a problem with her sink in our Lacana shop, and needed to be fixed. Well, to make a long story short, I asked for a moment of her time. I told her my vision for me and her, what we could accomplish together as a team, a rope, something bound together for life. And it took her a little bit of persuading, but here I am, here we are. And I got a moment of her time, and we moved from there. And then shortly after, she asked me to marry her. So we have this thing we call a 72-hour swing that she has to go through before the thing will go into motion. But you know, this part of our life, the structure of our life, both have always centered around what's good for the whole. And that's the main goal of the Canoe family life, is that we don't live as one. This year I had the biggest crew on my canoe that I have ever had. And the more people you have on a canoe, the harder it is to control. Because you have to control each one of them. You have to put them in the spot that they need to be in so that you can either keep an eye on them or teach them how to do what they're supposed to be doing. And in all of that decision-making process, we try to figure out where the education can come from. Who has the knowledge? Who has it that can be passed down to the one sitting next to him? In 1998, I've been saying this phrase since 1998. I said, if you go on canoe journey and it doesn't change you, you just went for a paddle. You didn't do anything else but put your paddle in the water and go from point A to point B. You didn't learn a thing. It changed my whole perspective on cultural life within the community. Knowing that I was one of the seeds that brought the culture back. Because when we started, there was 4 of us tribal members in this same type of canoe right here. The same type of canoe that will hold 18 people paddling. There was 4 of us in a ragtag group along the whole way. We never had the same group except for the 4 of us. And every day when we were on the water, we were changing to a new group, to a new group, to a new group. And the stress of that, of having to teach 4 to 6 new people when there's only 4 of us, how to do your job is rough. And it takes patience, it takes time, it takes, and that's the thing about being part of the whole, because if we aren't part of the whole, then we're part of the destruction and it'll fall apart on us. And this is all with what we have here in our 10 rules of the canoe. And you have to, without them knowing the 10 rules of the canoe, teach them this by the time they get to the end. So we have this ring ceremony that will show you all the canoe journeys that you've been on with a bead that signifies for only that journey, for only that destination. So each year has a different bead that you add onto your lanyard, and there's a copper ring that you wear. But we have that and hold that at the end of the canoe journey for the new ones to grab their canoe ring. And what we like to see is them know most of this without us even telling them that this is what we're doing. This is how we want, either through words, actions, or just example. Just be the example is the best part about how to take these canoe rules forward. So our goal as a whole, like I was saying earlier, there was only 4 of us, right? Well, now when we walk onto the floor as a group, a Swinomish tribal group, this year was one of the biggest groups that we had follow us to the end destination to Lower Elwha and come and help walk with us and represent us paddlers as we walked onto the floor, and that was the support. In this big arena, one of the white big tents that they rent out, we came in the door, walked all the way around the floor, met at the end where we walked in, and we still had people walking in the door.
Wow.
There was that many of us there. There was that many Swinomish.
Awesome.
So you know, when I was saying earlier about the responsibility of being the first four to now growing to probably 300 and 350 people at the end that come to represent Swinomish
Wow.
to celebrate with us and walk with us as we walk into protocol to represent our tribe.
Wow.
And it's one of the best feelings of accomplishment that I've ever had in my life, where you get to say, I was there. I was there when we brought the canoes home. And that day that I brought the canoes home, when we got home, almost 28 years ago, I was still a young man yet. Not that I'm old now, but I forgot my train of thought now. Yeah, bring them when we got home to Swinomish, where we land, there's a parking lot up on top, kind of like a overlook for the whole entrance for the canoes to come ashore. And I pull into Swinomish and I see elders up on the beach that remember as a child traveling by canoe as we bring the canoes home. And it's the first time that they've seen the traveling canoes since they were children. And they had tears in their eyes, and they were all full of joy and smiles. And to this day, I still remember that warmth, that glow that they had, that joy that they were witnessing to something grand that was happening at Swinomish that would change the course of our children and our children's children. Because now, 28 years, almost 30 years into the journeys, we're into our second generation. So with that second generation divide there, you can have 3 generations before and you can have 3 generations after in this one place where now we're all together. And you know, and that's what they were so proud of when we got home, was that one more step to reviving what was taken from us. When they took our canoes, like our longhouses, this land that we sit on right here, we could be sitting in my living room, 100 feet wide, 1,000 feet long, going up this hill, starting right down here. It was our biggest longhouse in Pen Cove. So this is the land that called me home. This is the one that said, come home, you know you're home. When I walked onto this pier the very first time, I felt like I was at home. Because this is home. This is Lower Skagit area. We saved this for y'all. We did. Thousands of years, pristine. And you know what? The grand thing about that is, we gave it up without a fight. There was no bloodshed. The biggest thing my people looked forward to was their survival of the people, because by the time that we ended up on the reservation, there was only a couple of hundred of us left from Penn Cove, and prior to contact, there was 8 longhouses in this cove and 8,000 Lower Skagit members living in Penn Cove. From the time Cook got here until the time that the new people showed up and we signed the treaty, there was only 200 of us left. 200. And we died off quick as we got to the reservation, just by Western tactics. So those numbers once dwindle again. And that's the joy that our people seen that day, was a resilience of our rebound, the way that we're coming back. And then as I grow older and I look back and I know what that joy that they felt, because now I know we've started something that can't be stopped. There's no stopping it. And my dream, before I'm gone, is to bring the canoes back to Penn Cove. Bring the canoes back to Penn Cove, to celebrate in Penn Cove, where our ancestors can hear our songs from today, and we can hear them calling us back and saying thank you, raising their hands. Because this is how we say thank you, without saying the words. So, it's like I was saying earlier, if you go on canoe journey and it doesn't change you, you just went for a paddle. Which brings me to a story about the canoes I'm going to build. If any of you have ever been down in the basement here, Chief Sneetland's canoe is down there, 29 feet long. I'm going to replicate those canoes with strip plank. I would love to be able to do a dugout someday, but to be able to afford that type of wood right now is almost impossible. I would have to get it from Alaska if I was going to get it from anywhere. I don't know if Washington has any. But those canoes down there, in '98, when I first went on canoe journey, I routinely pray by the water. I've done it all of my life. I've done it ever since I was a fisherman. I do it when I get on my boat. I do it when I'm out on the water, in the middle of the water. It's kind of like my church. It's kind of like my safe space. It's where I can touch and feel and look and see the wonders that I live in. And this is such a big subject to talk about. I lose track. I could talk about this forever, and I do. And with anybody that'll listen to me, I will talk about this trip. But when I go down to the water and pray every day, it's my belief that those that came before me, my ancestors, are the ones that hear my prayers. They're my guardian angels. They're the ones that walk beside me every day. They're the ones that guide me. They're the ones that protect me. They give me the words to speak when I need the words to speak. And when this spiritual help that we call upon to guide us and walk with us, and that's who I pray to them, and then they take it to someone who knows what I need and has the ability to help. And here's the example I'll show. In 1998, I was praying for cedar canoe. I had no specifics. I just wanted cedar. Every day I'm down by the canoe before we take off. I'm just sitting at the water, time alone, time to reflect on what's happened the day before. And that's what I'm talking about, like being in church. That's where the holiest place for me is outside, close as nature as I can get. But in 1998, there was a gentleman logging up in the Cascades here, up in the Mount Baker forestry. He was also he was a helicopter pilot. So he flew all of this lumber out, and he was allowed to take whatever he wanted as far as wood coming out of the forest. And he took this one log, brought it home, cut it up 16 inches wide, 1 inch thick, and then put it up to dry in his dryer. And he left it there. Had no idea what he was going to do with it. No idea why he had it. No idea why he cut it into those dimensions. When I was praying about this in 98, that's when he milled this up. He was also a millwright. So he worked with wood. He had a plan for this, but never followed through with it. So he retires and gives his stash of wood to his buddy, because he's a woodworker. And I'm sitting there, and I still remember this day too. This is so profound. But he brings this cedar out into the sunlight, puts it in his driveway so that I could look at it. And I pull up and I see this cedar laying there in this big pile. And I start crying. I didn't bawl, tears start coming out of my eyes. Didn't say a word. He looks at me and he says, "What's wrong?" I said, "Absolutely nothing." Absolutely nothing. And I proceed to tell him the same story I'm telling you about my prayers. And he tells me about the gentleman he got the wood from, and when he started culling the wood in 98, at the same time I'm praying, puts it up, and then he gets it and puts it up. And the very first guy that answers the Facebook Marketplace, me. And when he looks at me and I'm sitting there crying, and he says, "Man, I was going to get as much money out of this wood as I could get." But he says, "Seeing you now, with that joy on your face, and this was meant for you," he says, "I'm going to give you these 40 boards for $400. $10 a board. We're talking $100 boards. $100 boards, and I get them for 1/10 of the price." And he says, "I can't sell it to you because I want to be a part of your story." He knew that I was going to he knew that I was going to talk about it. He knew that I was his reputation would live with me. And that's what I mean about us as people. We are so oral. Everything we do is transmitted by vocal response between two people or more. That's how we educate. That's how we sing. That's how we show joy. It's also how we weep. And in this time, the times that I'm using are all times that could be used in the 10 rules here. I talked about not being selfish, not being unwilling to do what is right. And that's the whole thing about the number one rule. The number one rule is we do it for each other. For every stroke we take, it's one less all of us have to take. And when you don't take that one, that's one somebody else that has to take for you. So either way, we're going to get you there, whether you're helping stroke or whether you're not stroking at all. Because not everybody is going to be as strong as you are when you're on there, when you first get on there, and you have to realize that you're going to have to carry somebody. And that's our purpose in life, is to carry people, to help people, to make them survive. We have to be a part and willing to be able to take them with us. This one's self-explanatory. There is no abuse of self or others. That one is a big one for us on Canoe Journey, because a lot of the people that are new to Canoe Journey are new because they're looking for a different lifestyle. They're looking for a way out. They're looking for something better. They're looking for life in general. Because we end up with a lot of people that are dealing with the ills of the life today in this society. The drugs, the alcohol, the homelessness, the things that go along with the underside of life as a society. And those are the ones we welcome back in, because those are the ones we want to heal. With one more healing behind us, that's one more that can survive behind us. They will take somebody else along with them. So somebody else will be able to come along with them. And it's a ripple effect, like dropping a stone in the water, where you were that one stone, but that stone does not quit rippling out in that circle, and then circles keep getting bigger and bigger. And be flexible was number 3. My position as a skipper, I probably have to be the most flexible of everybody on the canoe. And I'll give you an example. This year on Canoe Journey, I got into an argument with my nephew, who is probably 30 years younger than I am, or better. Attempted to tell me what was right on Canoe Journey, about Canoe Journey, enforcing a Canoe Journey rule. And I didn't have the heart to say it to him, but I told him that he was bringing Western culture into what we want to save ourselves from, and not just save ourselves from, but realize in that saving ourselves, realize that that part of Western life is not what we were meant to take part in. We were meant to take what we have in our hearts and our souls and move forward with it while keeping the knowledge that we have intact. So irregardless of whether we're bringing it forward by a computer or we're bringing it forward by a fiberglass canoe, we're still taking what we know and moving it forward and protecting what we have. But what we want to protect ourselves from is the Western thought of the selfishness that comes along with being a part of a dominant culture that can't get enough of what's here and has to take it all. And we've seen it over and over and over again with our every resource that we have, every one that we were responsible for, that we kept alive, is now gone. Our forests are gone. Our fish are gone. Our elk, our deer, our whales. They're slowly becoming extinct. And I always take this conversation back to what Chief Seattle said. After it's all gone, try eating your money and see how well it tastes. Because it's not going to sustain you. The money is not going to sustain you. What sustains you is Mother Earth, and that's the only way that we live, is if Mother Earth lives, and if Mother Earth lives, then we live. But Mother has to live first in order for us to survive. And you know, that part of life can't go away. I've been asked before, why do you have such optimism? It's because I have grandchildren. That's why I'm optimistic. I want to be able to educate them enough to be able to make the same decisions that I made as a man growing up. Because ultimately, that's the only thing that we get to keep when we leave are our decisions. When you leave, that's the only thing you leave with. The decisions you made in life to get you where you're at, to take your last breath. The gift of each. That's another one that can be so profound, because in our gifts, I've always said that we come with the knowledge already to take care of any task that we're going to do in life. If you're going to be a doctor, you already have that inert knowledge inside of you to be a doctor. That knowledge is down there somewhere. You brought that with you. You brought that piece of nurturing with you. If you want to be a lawyer, that's in you. If you want to be a shipwright, that's in you. One of the things that has served me well, and I'm a dying breed, and I am a jack of all trades. I've worked more than 30 different occupations in my lifetime and rose to the position of leadership in these occupations to be able to train people behind me to take my place when I leave. So I have always been the best of the best at whatever I've done, but I have never denied the fact that I already had this knowledge. Somewhere deep down, I already had the ability to equate 2 + 2 in that occupation, to be able to know what was wrong, what was right, how to fix it, how to be able to solve the problem of any occupation that I was ever in. So with that knowledge, I carried that with me. I brought that with me, because the jobs that we have to do, the tasks that we have to do, the things that we do in life, all have to serve a purpose of our whole being, what makes us up as a person. Every occupation that I have ever had, I have helped somebody with it. Somewhere along the line, somehow. I started out as a mechanic when I was a kid, 16 years old. And then I went into boat building. You know, and then from there, I just took every trade school that I could get my hands on. But like I was saying, I already had that ability. So irregardless of what job was put in front of me, I was still able to do the job. And it is one of the things when we use our gifts the way that they're supposed to be used, it just enriches our life and everybody else's life around us. Oh my goodness, a hungry person has no charity. Oh, a lot of people read that one wrong. They equate it to worth. It's not what the rule of the Canoe says. A hungry person has no charity. When you're hungry, you got nothing to give. You are at the lowest part of your life. Unless you have ever experienced hunger, this is hard to hit home. And when you're hungry and you find somebody else that's hungry, you just got two people that are hungry, you know? But that is not the subject here. We're not talking about physical sustenance. We're talking about people, like I was talking about earlier, that are searching for something. They're searching for a way out. They're searching for reality. They're searching for truth. And if you don't have the empathy to be able to sit and listen, or sit and talk, or sit and be able to say, yes, I know how you feel, that's the hungry person that needs help. They're the ones that are starving for growth, life, being able to be well again. And I've walked their road. I've walked their talk. I've walked in their shoes. I've been hungry. I've been abused. I've been an addict. I've been an alcoholic. But that's not where I stayed. I always knew there was something better for me, something that I should be doing. And the way that I found my most worth in my life is when I volunteered. I volunteered all of my life. I was taught how to volunteer at an early age during community gatherings. And for the littlest children to volunteer, back then your job was to give coffee and tea. So my job was to walk around with a coffee pot and a teapot going, coffee, tea, you know, and from there I went to washing dishes, and from there I went to cooking, and from there, you know, it's just a life that just keeps on giving back to the community. And those are the parts of life that are going to save our community, where we're able to give back freely of everything that we own, everything. So we're trying to help those that are hungry, so that they too one day can give of what they have, and they're not looked at as just charity. This one I always have a problem with. I'm very critical. Experiences are not rich through criticism. Depends on which ones you're criticizing, I guess. When it's self-critical, it's okay. You know, when you can look inside yourself and criticize yourself, that's the biggest accomplishment that you're ever going to gain in life. Because in order to grow, you have to be able to realize that there's something wrong and that you need to change. And that criticism comes from within. And that's why I've said that I am the biggest critic, but only of myself. But you know, the hardest part about sometimes in life is reverse discrimination. And a lot of people don't know there is reverse discrimination amongst a community until somebody points it out and saying that, look, this is not right. This is not some direction that we need to be going as a community. And when you get to that point, because in our community we have what's called as general council. Prior generations, general council had the teeth and the authority of the reservation and the community. And it was the way disputes were solved. It was a place to go and represent yourself. We needed no lawyers. We needed no counsel. You represent yourself. You stand before the people and you tell your story. And it is one of the best functioning governments that you will ever see if it works right. Because it's the actual will of the people that makes this community work. And by general council, that's who the will is the community. And this 8, the journey is what we enjoy. You know, when people, my longest journey was almost 400 miles. And that's a lot of water time. A lot of water time. This summer was my shortest in duration, but the worst for physical effort. It beat me up. When I got to shore, I couldn't go and join the protocols with everybody else, because in order for me to take off again the next day, I had to take care of me, to take care of them. But in 4 of the 7 days that we traveled in wind and tides that had at least 1 to 2 feet seas. One day we had almost 4 foot seas, and that's going through the strait here. And you know, when you're controlling, like I said, 18 people, we're talking 18 people, we're talking 3,000 pounds that I have to control in the wind, in the waves, so that they don't get wet and end up in the drink. So that takes all of my energy that day, everything, you know. But I've had journeys where I did the 400 miles. At the end of those 400 miles, I felt like I could do another 400 miles. You know, and then it's the contrast of the two different journeys. It's what we make of it. It's what we make of the journey. It's not what we had to do it, but what we did as a crew to get through it together. You know, because I couldn't do it without them. They couldn't do it without me. Besides that, I wouldn't let them do it without me. There's not many people. I told my brother that this year too. He says, why don't you just let so-and-so do it? And I said, because there's not many people that I trust to take care of my family. My brother is the one that owns the canoe. I'm the skipper. I'm the one that says what goes on in the canoe. So needless to say, nobody replaced me that day I went. Oh, now we get back to this one again. I knew I was going to come back to this one. I brought this subject up just a little while ago. A good teacher allows the student to learn. I'll bring you back to my nephew and the argument that we had, and him trying to tell me that I was wrong and he was right. And when it happened, he blew up in front of me, right in front of the crew, the whole crew. And when you anger me, my voice gets really loud. So you're not the only one that hears me. Everybody hears me. And I continued to tell him what he did wrong, but he refused to listen. Because he was trying to bring a culture into what we do that does not exist. That part of our culture does not exist. The respect factor that goes into having to make the decision of being the skipper. All leaders are not liked. All leaders are not respected. But all leaders, good leaders, will make sure that you arrive safe, unhurt, and have grown in the journey. And I gave my nephew time to cool off. And he, like I, am a praying man. He is a praying man also. And just so happens, he went to the water. And I was so happy when he told me that he went to the water to pray. He had to be alone. He said, I went to the water. I had to go. And what he came to the conclusion was that I was right, that he was wrong, trying to force his thoughts and ways of life onto what we do, and it's non-existent to what we do, just because he felt like he was right. And we face that in this culture so many times where we have been told that we did things that are wrong until they've been proven that they were right, and we needed them as a culture, as a whole, to survive. And that's humbling for a Western culture to have to humble itself to acknowledge that what we were doing already predates any type of care that was needed. Prior to Western medicine, we had doctors here that could heal us from 90% of the diseases from what was grown right here, right in the cove. If we got sick in this cove, there was something in this cove that was going to heal us. And that's what it was. That's the way life was. Well, we can't do that no more because topographical changes, the changes in the culture, the climate, the tides, the wind, the rain, everything else changed the way that we used to live. And when we change those, it alters the way that our course. And when I was talking to my nephew, after he had come to the conclusion that I was right and he was wrong, I said, this is not the outcome that I was looking for, that you would come back to me and say that you're right. What I'd rather you have done is thought about it pre-argument in front of everybody else and give me the respect that I need, and then go do what you got to do and pray, and then come back to me and talk to me about it. But it's a learning experience that he had to have with me. Because when, like I said, when you're in authority, people don't always agree with you. And that's okay. But you're there because you have the knowledge and the authority to carry out the position, and people behind you said you have this ability to do it. And without those people behind me telling me that I could take this position and do with it as I please because I am the skipper, that's something that he grew into this year, where he's seen a bigger picture, where it's not just one little dot on the painting, but it's a whole big collage of different colors. And I was glad at the end. And I don't let things and like that anger me, but they excite me. And that's the biggest difference about how and when things are resolved for us. Because we get too much excitement into the conversation, and it looks just like an argument. It doesn't look like anything's going to be solved. Nobody's going to learn anything. Okay, the last one. Oh yeah. When given any choice, when given any choice at all, be a worker bee. We all know who depends on the hive for survival. The queen is important, but it's the workers. It's the workers that get you there. It's the workers that hold everything up. And being the worker bee is one of the most important jobs that we can have, is to take what we know and take our knowledge and be able to bring it forward. Be that worker bee. Be the one that breaks the mold, breaks the cycle, breaks the chain of addiction. Because that's our ultimate goal with all of this, is to make us whole, make us healthy, make us culturally sound. And that's what the whole purpose of this canoe journey. You know, and I've only touched lightly on these 10 subjects and a handful of subjects that are scattered within this brain. But like I said, I could talk forever about what we do, and I block nothing out but this time of my year. Every year, this is where I'm at. If you ever want to know where I'm at in July and August, I'm celebrating. I'm having fun. I'm being tribal. I'm being Swinomish. I am representing my people. And it just keeps getting better and better and better, because, you know, when you're a part of a whole, 110 canoes, 80 different tribes, all gathering in one spot for the same reason. The same reason. Those are the worker bees. Those are the ones that get us to where we're going. Those are the ones that make us churn as a culture. And I just live it. I just live this life to be able to make sure that my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and those coming behind them reap some of the benefits that we weren't allowed to partake in. Because when they destroyed our canoes, they crushed them with rocks, and they burned them up just like they burned up our our longhouses that were here. When you don't want a remnant of somebody, you destroy what was there. And unfortunately, that's what they did with our longhouses, was burn them up. And there's nothing we can do about history, but you know, the thing about burning them up just baked my grandfather's souls into this ground. And that's the cry I hear, to come home. Come home. Come home. You need to be home. And I'm home. And that's all I can say. And I thank you today for making this such a great day